any of these? Okay. Motion to move it forward.
Motion moved.
We're going to vote. That's all. Okay.
We already moved them yesterday. Yeah.
Well, no, but that's a committee. We got to do it formally here.
So moved
That doesn't mean
second.
anything. Okay. Move seconded. Are we going to vote? We're going to vote for all of them at once unless there's objection. Seeing none. All in favor? Call the roll. Sorry.
Roll call.
We're going to call the roll. We're going to call the roll.
Mr. McGee,
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni,
Yes.
Mr. Heckman,
Here, yes.
Mr. Myers,
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky,
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic,
Yes.
adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you. I just came from another meeting. We were moving along at lightning speed.
Wow.
Just,
You got to slow your roll.
Got to slow it down a bit. Okay. Now, since we're still holding on, what I'm going to do is, I believe we have Mr. Dolan is here. And if he would come forward to the podium, I'd like to say something to him.
He's leaving.
Okay.
40 years ago, who would have predicted this?
That's right.
They would have predicted you, but not me. Okay. Mr. Dolan, in honor and recognition of over 45 years, own age, 45 years of public service in the Northampton County Department of Human Services, he has dedicated his life to protecting and preserving the well-being of children, youth, and families in the county. Beginning in 1974 as a children, youth, and family social worker, and ending in 2020 as administrator for the division. He formerly served as the director of Northampton County Child Abuse and Emergency Intervention Units, tirelessly devoting his career to helping at-risk youth. He is the recipient of numerous awards, 2 of which are State Child Abuse Worker of the Year and State Social Worker of the Year. He was nominated for the National Child Welfare Worker of the Year Award in 1984 for his novel approach to reduce the trauma of court appearances for sexually abused children. He is also recognized for service on many community boards and is a founder of Turning Point of the Lehigh Valley, which is the most recognized regional source for domestic violence victims to access help. The Northampton County Council extends a most heartfelt thank you to him and his diligent leadership and his devotion to improving the lives of others. His commitment to public service has clearly demonstrated that one person can make a difference. And this is signed by all the members of council. Mrs. Ferraro, when she gets back, we'll hunt her down. If you're around, I know you'll be up at your estate probably, but you can head down here and we'll get her signature on it too.
Sounds good.
And just want to say congratulations. You it says you were this actually you beginning in '74, and then as far as the child abuse, you actually Northampton County had one of the first in the state, if I'm not correct.
That's right.
If I'm not mistaken. And I had the good fortune to work for Mr. Dolan, not his good fortune, mine. And he had a crew at that time, referred to as cowboys, clowns, and amongst other things, I'm sure. But anyway, it was a good start, and from there it's grown to something great. So on behalf of all of us, Kevin, congratulations.
I didn't expect it, but I know I spoke to you a couple of weeks ago. I just wanted to say it was a tremendous honor for working for Northampton County. My entire career has been working for Northampton County, and I'm very proud of that achievement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your service.
Congratulations. How are we going with, should I still roll on?
Roll on.
Okay.
Roll on.
Rolling on. Keep those wagons rolling. I don't know if anybody remembers that other than me. All right. I'm going to go to courtesy of the floor, actually. So I have 2 names on the list, and the first is Paul Saunders. Mr. Saunders, if you come forward, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you.
If you would repeat your name for the clerk.
Paul Saunders, and I am the judge of elections for Hanover Township, District 2. Tonight, I want to correct some misinformation about the validity of the election and the vote in the November 2019 off-year election. And I want to elaborate on the incredibly poor performance of the ES&S Express Vote Excel machines that my district observed. First and foremost, I want to make clear that the November 2019 election was not, I repeat, not fair and accurate for many reasons which county officials cannot whitewash away with the false claim that the printed ballot saved the day. I've spoken to numbers of voters to whom these machines and their procedures were brand new, who told me that they never realized that they were supposed to examine the reappearing paper ballot for errors before casting their vote. Other voters who were surprised by these new procedures did not realize they were allowed to spoil an inaccurate paper ballot and get a new one. These are just two reasons the vote count was inaccurate. In addition, fewer than 5 to 10% of the voters entering our poll were familiar with these machines and the new voting procedures. Therefore, my poll team was forced to perform education about the machine and ballot procedures to the voters waiting in line to vote while they were simultaneously conducting the election. Some additional reasons for vote count inaccuracy are: problem one, a huge machine problem confusing the voters and creating a major erroneous vote count was the way the machine displayed cross-file candidates. When Republican voters chose to do a party line vote, the machine had no name in the Republican column for cross-filed candidates, and the machine only lit up the name in the Democratic Party column. The excuse I was given for why the candidate's name was only in the Democratic Party column was that our current governor is a Democrat. Of course, the reverse would be true if we had a Republican governor. Therefore, when the confused Republican voter deselected even one of these cross-filed candidates' names, all their other Republican candidate selections were also deselected, thereby nullifying the voter's intent to cast a Republican Party line vote. Naturally, this gave a huge vote count advantage to Democratic Party candidates. Problem two, the hypersensitive touchscreens refused to light to record a voter's selection unless the voter did an extremely fast snake bite or henpeck type of tap on the screen. If the voter tapped slowly or held their finger on a position for even 1/4 of a second, no selection light turned on. If in deep frustration at this machine behavior, they held their finger on a selection, again, no selection light turned on. This machine failure caused extreme frustration and anger of the voters who may not have taken the time to complete their voting, thereby causing a vote count error. Problem three, in addition, this touchscreen problem caused tremendous delays in the voting in this low participation off-year election and backed up long lines of voters out the door of our location. Voters who had to work or had tight schedules just walked away, many never to return, causing a voter disenfranchisement problem. Problem four, because of the major touchscreen and procedure problems with these machines, the voting time averaged an unacceptable 3+ minutes with a range from 1.5 minutes to 12 minutes. We measured it. I've passed along all these machine and procedure failures leading to the erroneous election in the November 2019 to voter registration staff so that they can demand that ES&S correct their defective machines before the April 28, 2020 primary election. I've also requested 1 or 2 additional machines for Hanover District 2 so that in 2020 we do not drive away voters in this presidential election year. However, a looming disaster still awaits us on primary election day, April 28, 2020. Given that the election day is 13 hours or 780 minutes long, and if this council buys Hanover 2 only a 4th ES&S machine, if the average ES&S voting time remains at 3 minutes, and Hanover 2 gets an 80% turnout of our 1,200 voters, our poll will only be able to process 1,040 voters out of the 1,520 voters who will show up at our poll. disenfranchising 480 voters. This looming disaster must be solved by ES&S reducing the voting time on their machine, or this council buying Hanover 2 a fifth machine before the April 28th primary. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Mr. Saunders. Thank you. All right, I have Alan Brow. Am I pronouncing that right? Brow, I'm sorry. Brow. She put it in parentheses for me. If you would just spell that for the clerk. And
Sure. First name Alan, A-L-A-N, last name Brow, B-R-A-U.
You have 5 minutes
Okay,
as well.
thank
sir.
you. And I'm the new vice chair of the Elections Commission. I wanted to have an opportunity to address you about an issue that has always made me passionate about elections, and that's election security and election fairness. I know we've been through some things in this county. I was involved many, many years ago. Maybe some of you remember me. Yep. But basically, you know, what I found is that too much of a reliance on technology can be very naive. And as a result, and believe me, I think your hearts and minds are all in the right place when it comes to voting machines. And to be honest with you, the one we selected, I really liked that machine. It was pretty cool. It sort of really got to the geek in me that I could look at that thing and it could do so many different things. The salespeople were awesome. It just really was a very pleasant experience looking at that. But when you stop and think what the consequences are of not having the potential accuracy of the vote, you know, you can really sort of unravel the whole situation. Everybody who votes wants to make sure their vote is counted, right? I mean, you know, you go to the poll, you make a vote, you want to think, okay, that vote is in there, that vote is not lost somewhere. And when people lose that confidence, that's really sort of the backbone of democracy. I mean, we're democratic because we vote for things, and I'm terribly concerned about the level of confidence that has been eroded as a result of those events. In fact, the prior Elections Commission voted no confidence, and actually I was at that meeting, and there was a lot of strong negative sentiment about the equipment because we had invested so much in this equipment, and it sort of burned us. In fact, I said that the other night, when it was last night, I was talking to the folks from ES&S, and I said, you know, no matter what you tell me, I can't trust you. I mean, basically, you know, you're showing me some cool stuff, and I really like the way, you know, things are done in terms of efficiency. But the fact that so many things can go wrong with these machines, we like to call them black boxes. Information goes in and you don't know what is happening in there, and you can try and extract the information, but it's, you know, sometimes it's all sort of doctored up while it's in there. So, you know, it's been a long-standing problem. Technology is awesome, believe me. I love technology. I'm kind of a tech guy, but when it comes to voting, the voting machine has to do one thing. It has to accurately record the vote so that it can be counted later. And you want to do it confidentially, of course, but that's what the voting machine has to do. And, you know, you get into these sort of Rube Goldberg contraptions where, you know, it's very exciting and a lot of lights, and it's interesting, but ultimately, if it doesn't perform the task, it doesn't perform. Now, I know Charles probably going to say something to me about the system did work because we voted all the ballots and we counted them up and we spent, you know, God knows how many hours doing that, and it all sort of worked out. But I wonder if it hadn't been 26,000 or 28,000 votes that were off, or the fact that 0 votes were initially counted, would we have checked like that? You know, what if it was 1,000 votes? And as you know, these presidential elections, one of which is coming up in, you know, later this year, you know, sometimes they're won or lost by, you know, 50,000 votes. So, you know, if we're sort of 28,000 votes off in that election, I mean, we really could throw the election. We're a swing county in a swing state, and people are looking to us to do it right. And, you know, whether you're aware or not, you know, people are writing articles about us, talking about us, Northampton County. So anyway, I feel like we should really do the right thing and change to hand-marked paper ballots. I know it would be a tough pill to swallow. It sort of causes us to kind of retract and figure out, you know, what's the right thing to do here. You know, we will probably be subject to, you know, shame and ridicule from, you know, from people in the county. But I think a lot more people in the county will respect us from the standpoint of doing it right. I just feel like we can't turn away from this. This is a problem that's in front of us. it's easy to sort of have this, fancy machine, and, they're going to talk to you about these electronic poll books, and, it's easy to see this stuff and get excited about it. Just like, if you had a Maserati parked in your driveway, it's exciting too. But really, I think sometimes we get too much technology
30 seconds. I don't want to,
Okay.
I just wanted to just.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we have too much technology that sometimes takes away from the primary purpose of what we're trying to do. Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Now, that's all I had, but certainly, if courtesy of the floor, please come up. If you'd give your name to the clerk, and you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Tom Campione, and it's Tom, T-O-M. Campione is C-A-M-P-I-O-N-E, and I reside at 33 West Water Street in Hellertown. I'm here because I'm very unhappy with the current voting system and the many reports of problems in the last election. While I understand that all new systems take some getting used to, I'm mostly concerned with system security. The county's system, manufactured by ES&S, uses an old version of Windows, which is known to be vulnerable to hacking and malware. Further, the manufacturer, the top voting machine maker in the country, admitted in a letter to Oregon State Senator Ron Wyden in April of 2018 that they had in fact installed PC Anywhere remote control software in machines that they had sold over a period of 6 years. Previously, they vigorously denied the use of any remote control software whatsoever. So one might say that the manufacturer in fact lied to a state lawmaker. The result is that personally, I have zero confidence in this manufacturer. To that, I would add that there are additional issues with the machine. I think they've probably been discussed. When the machine prints a human-readable ballot, it also prints a barcode. But I am, by trade, a coder, and I know that those are very different objects. And one can say one thing and one could say another thing, and there's no way to prove that without actually scanning the barcode. And those barcodes are encoded, so you need decryption keys to even determine what is in the barcode itself. And the scanner reads the barcode, not the human readable print. Bottom line is, I have zero confidence in this manufacturer, in these machines, and I am respectfully requesting that the county consider replacing our voting system with a paper ballot from Clear Ballot. Clear Ballot is also certified for use in Pennsylvania. Bucks County just went with them. They seem to be a high quality and one of the most secure manufacturers. So I'd ask that the council take a look at those machines. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, I believe there was someone else who put, come on up. If you just give your name to the clerk of council, and you have 5 minutes.
Yes, my name is Beverly Hernandez. I'm a resident of Northampton County, 3820 Farmersville Road, Easton, PA, 18045. And Mr. Saunders and Mr. Campione and the other gentlemen have basically said what I would have said, and instead of repeating it again, I would just like to say that I'm not even sure that the people who have been elected in this election are legitimately desired by the voters. There seems ESL is not a dependable system. I could go into a background on that. My friends have told me of their experiences when they were voting, how things would jump around. They couldn't vote for the people they wanted to vote for. I am really lacking in confidence in this system, and as Mr. Campione said, I would also recommend we go to a paper ballot. We are a swing state in this upcoming election in November. It's really important that the people in Pennsylvania get their votes counted the way they want them counted. That's basically all I have to say, and it's an extremely important issue here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And now I believe we have someone else. If you would just do the same, give your name, and you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. My name's Melissa Gallagher, Gallagher, and I reside at 4050 Freemansburg Avenue, Easton, Pennsylvania, 18045, also Northampton County. I'm going to pretty much say the same thing, and I don't want to repeat everybody else, but I do agree with what everyone else has said here previously. One of the things I will also add is about purging our voter rolls. That's another key issue I find talked about an awful lot with people. Not only a lack of confidence, when you want people to vote in elections, when I talk to people and they say, what does it matter? You know, my vote's really not going to count anyway. That's not the kind of thing I want to hear. I want to hear people who are voting, and I want people's voices to be heard. I also have a lack of confidence with these machines, and I will tell you my experience. I voted at over by the Schrin Center. There's a church over there. That's the particular place where I have to go to vote. And when I was in line, they hand you the sheets, and you're standing there holding the sheets. And there were many people that were in line behind me, and as you're waiting, people are fiddling with these papers, so they're crinkling them, and they're making them almost damaged. So when they go to feed them into the machines and it's not going in properly, that was an issue. Then there were also issues where these pieces of paper were being spit back out. Well, people are taking them with them thinking that these are their confirmations. So you've got lost votes just with that. And these are just a few of the stories. So I think going with the paper ballots, again, yes, it may be not convenient to have accessible information immediately, because everyone seems to like to have everything yesterday or right away. But I do think it will also send a message that we're trying to do our best. We're trying to fix the problems and make things better for everyone, so we have legitimate voting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to approach council during courtesy of the floor? Seeing no one, are we ready with the presentation?
Almost. We just want to make sure that it's going to display correctly all of the...
All right. I mean, we'll have the executive report, and by hopefully then you're ready.
Good evening, council.
Always a good time.
Graysdale recently had its survey conducted by the Department of Health. And you will recall the last survey, which was conducted under the aegis of Premier, the consultant that we no longer use. We had 11 deficiencies. Mm-hmm. And during this survey, Graysdale had an additional burden put upon it because there were 4 other additional complaints made at the time that the Department of Health was surveying Graysdale. I'm proud to report to you tonight, council, that all 4 of those complaints, beyond what the survey was reviewing, were found to be unsubstantiated. The Department of Health survey team was in there, and all 4 reports were unsubstantiated. That is a great credit to Graysdale. So our last survey, we had 11 deficiencies. I'm happy to report under the new administration led by Jennifer Stewart King, and we had 5 this time. That was substantial progress. We've gone from 11 to 5 under our management, and all the credit goes to the administration and all of the terrific employees at Graysdale. And we are shooting for even fewer deficiencies in the future. So, from time to time, we talk about naming things after folks. And, you know, we have Thoder Tower at Graysdale, and we used to have the Bechtel building in Bethlehem until we sold it. We have Wayne A. Grube Memorial Park, which used to be Weaversville Park. And our names, Mr. Cusick and my names, are on the prison. They're on
Archives.
they're on archives. They're out at the Human Services building. So our names are everywhere. Your names are all going to be on the Forensic Center. But one of the things I would like to do as we look forward to revamping Bear Swamp, I would like for you to consider naming the Bear Swamp Archery facility after former County Councilman and County Executive Gerald Seyfried. This, I think, would be a tremendous honor to him, which is overdue, and I hope that you would consider joining me in doing that in the future. I'd probably like to get some work done there first before we go hanging his name on it, but it is something I'd definitely like for you to consider. We were talking about the important public use of the purchase, your recent purchase of the South Union Street property, and we're working through those plans now. But in the interim, we've been contacted by the fire department of the city of Easton, who would like to use the facility for training purposes in advance of any other important public Well, I didn't. We haven't talked about we didn't talk about exactly what training they're going to do in the facility, but the solicitor's office right now is working with the city on an indemnity agreement, so we're held harmless for any injuries or damage that might occur. But I wanted to share that with you. There's already an important public purpose for your purchase of that building.
That's very familiar.
We today learned at the Election Commission meeting that a new registrar has been appointed in voters. As you know, Amy Hess, who did a remarkable job through a very trying situation last year, did not wish to move from acting to the job. She had most certainly earned it. She wanted to go back to her deputy position. And tonight we learned a panel after the career service rules and processes and regulations were followed, selected Amy Cozy to be our new voter registrar. I think Amy is smart. She's got a tremendous education, and she is familiar with the system we use. No one else was, and she looks forward to the challenge of not only helping us move forward in implementing and using the Excel, but in implementing Act 77, which is going to be a tremendous burden on our elections folks. It's great. The law's great. I'm not complaining about the law. It's just the implementation of Act 77 is going to be very difficult, very burdensome. And in the future, we may even need to discuss whether we expand the number of employees we have in voters. We'll have to see what our experience is like this year. So there is that. What else do I want to talk about? Last night, during the Finance Committee meeting, we were talking about the generator. And the generator needs to be purchased in order to replace a generator from the 1970s. This is a necessity. And the Public Works proposal of the generator that they wish to purchase is $60,000 less than the natural gas generators that they priced. According to Public Works analysis, it will take 26 years to make the difference pay for itself if we were to go with a natural gas generator. Now remember, with our environmental concerns, this generator will be manufactured to the latest standards, and it will only operate, hopefully, a few times a year. So not adding too much to our already pretty significant carbon footprint. So that is the analysis there. We don't even begin to imagine what it would be in expense to extend the gas lines in order to have a natural gas generator there. So, 26 years for the $60,000. I just don't think it would be fiscally prudent to do anything other than just approve that contract. Finally, I have a bill from ES&S for $86,087.50. Fortunately, we don't have to pay that because they would never give us a bill, right, at this point. But what is that bill? What caused them to generate this for us? They have been in our warehouse nonstop for the last 2 weeks, working through the weekends to make sure that all of our 320 machines are properly configured, and they have completed that job. So all of the machines are now properly configured, including the approximately 30% of machines that were problematic. And I think a lot of the interface problems, the interaction, negative interaction that some voters experienced will probably now be non-existent. So we're very happy about that. And with that, sir, that concludes my report.
Any questions, or Ms. Zirinsky?
Is there any chance that we would be adding any more machines?
Well, let's get through the primary and take a look and see
Yeah, because
how.
the primary is only a couple months away.
Right.
Which is difficult.
I'm thinking we should. I'm thinking that's a good idea.
Because I wasn't at the election commission meeting, but was that something that came up there as a possibility? And would they have to, would the election commission have to request to purchase more machines?
No,
No.
No.
That could be something that comes straight from an administrator.
that's correct.
Just checking, because
Yep.
they've already had the vote of no confidence, so I can't imagine that they would want to purchase more machines.
Correct. And to your point, and I have a great deal of sympathy
Yeah.
for folks who are afraid. I really do.
Yeah.
That's not that's not a throwaway line. I do. Maybe empathy is a better word.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing: if you're a critic of the current system, you need to answer two questions. You need to answer, in the first instance, how is your idea less risky than what we already know? So when you're thinking about these other systems, you have to think about Montgomery County's experience in the last spring election, right? You have to think about York County's disastrous experience just this November. You have to think about Carbon County and the 17 days it took them to figure out who won an election. You have to think about Monroe County and the problems they had. So, you've got to demonstrate why your idea is less risky. And you can't. Based on the current information available on new certified systems in Pennsylvania, no critic is going to be able to demonstrate that their idea is less risky. Here's the other thing, counsel. How can we waste millions of dollars scrapping one system and buying another? Millions of dollars we don't have, counsel. Are you going to cut money from the Area Agency on Aging to pay for a paper system that the folks who are afraid can't demonstrate isn't less risky? Is that what you're going to cut? Are you going to cut from farmland preservation or open space and environmentally sensitive land? Where's that extra $3 or $4 million that, in my view, would be a waste of taxpayer money? Where's that coming from? Where's it coming? Well, that's a good point, and thank you, sir. 2 or 3 years from now, if you sue ES&S, and that presupposes that ES&S violated the contract.
Hasn't the state come up with some sort of solution insofar as there's a mail ballot option?
Yes.
Like an early voting option. So
Yes.
if you really wanted to fill out something by paper, by hand,
Yes,
you can send your ballot in early.
that is correct.
Right. But the other thing that I wanted to ask beyond that was with these early ballots,
Right.
that's going to create an influx of more of these paper ballots, right?
Correct.
And there's a concern about where people can drop them off.
Correct.
So will there be any other ancillary places where people can, besides the election office downstairs on the first floor?
For the primary, the answer is no, except that we will have a kiosk in the rotunda so that folks don't have to come through security to drop their ballot off. We'll have a secure drop off there in the rotunda. And then we'll analyze for the general election whether we can have, we're authorized now to have satellite offices, but counsel, here's the problem. already don't have enough people,
Right.
professional people who will have access to the shore system to do what we need to do, okay? So we'll need to analyze that, and that's probably something over time that we'll, you know, we'll have to decide. But we're looking at having other ancillary offices,
Right.
other places. Your point's well taken, but it's not.
Because while there's a solution, it does create other problems.
And while in my conversation with the governor's office, while they were very encouraging of us doing that, I didn't hear about any extra money.
Yeah.
So that's another issue. Yes,
Any
sir.
other questions, Mr. Connors?
Now that they're done doing their due diligence in the warehouse with the machines,
Yes, sir.
are they returning to council? Because it's a new kid in the block. I got a couple questions for him.
Yes, they'll be back.
I was, in line with that, I was hoping, we had, I think as a group suggested, maybe they could come back when the ballots are ready or come up with a dummy ballot that would reflect what ours will look like in November.
Yes.
And present to council in April, in April.
Yes.
Well, if it's, well,
It's the 28th, yeah.
before the primary, when they can know what our ballot will sort of look like. 'Cause it wouldn't look like what it did in the fall.
Correct.
So if they could do that, that would be very helpful to the new members and to the rest of us, too.
They'll do whatever you want them to do.
Yes, Mr. Kusick. Were you finished? No, go ahead, Mr. Myers.
Just a thought, they're coming back
Yes.
and they're making corrections on these machines, which they are machines and they're only man-made so they can be adjusted. Suggestion that one machine be brought back and they show us exactly what the hell they did?
Well,
Is that possible?
They
yes.
could recap, I mean, on the machine. I
Yeah,
think,
they can.
for
Yeah,
the new-
they can do that for you.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mr. Kusick, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just curious, how many applicants were there for the registrar position?
Internally, I think. How many
Internal or external?
7, and how many were? 2 qualified.
7, any external? I know it was advertised.
We never get to the external until we've gotten past the internal. So there were, I am aware that there were external applications.
Anybody else have any? I just find it incredibly, I'm trying to search for a word. I'll use a kind one. Self-gratifying for them to give us a bill for $86,000 and that they graciously say you don't have to pay.
I think they
for
just-
fixing something that they screwed up.
We asked them for it.
Okay. No,
Yeah, we asked them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just to know the value of their
Well,
services.
There's other trainings.
Tell them, for any bills they have going forward, they may have to show up with the executive because I think they'd have plenty of questions from this board.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to be getting a bill for a while.
Okay.
Not anytime soon.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ms. Hefner.
We'll have to pay for the additional machines, of course, but
You mean they're not going to just throw
no,
those
they're not
in?
going to give them.
Tara, Ms. Hefner.
That was
go ahead.
my fault, sir. I'm sorry.
I'm not sure what the transition for her to take that position will be, but some of the things that continue to come up is the idea of training. I heard the idea that, I just heard tonight, that people are saying they had to take a lot of time to educate the voters. So is there going to be a subsequent retraining for election poll workers, et
Yes.
cetera, prior to April?
Yes,
And will Ms. Cozy be handling that or
Yes.
organizing that?
yes. Yep.
Get a date for that?
Well,
We
she
will
has to
get-
take the job.
Yeah, she has to take the
She
job,
just got announced tonight, so we got to give her
They
5
do,
minutes.
they do, sir. Mr. Myers, they do, and I will, at the next meeting, I will have a list for you of everything they're doing.
Yeah, I think it would be curious to see. I know with the ballots being mailed in, I do believe there's probably going to be a fair amount of extra work we've never seen before. And as I know you've said that you're going to have people here doing things, but because I think we don't even know yet how much of a burden it's going to be. I mean, I agree, it's a good thing. I think it's great, people can mail in ballots now, and I think anyone that has concerns should mail in a ballot. That makes sense, but, you know.
Well, a light duty in Northampton County may go down. Like, folks who get injured and come back light duty, it may go down. People might not get hurt because there's an executive order now that if you're on light duty in Northampton, you've got to go to voters first.
Okay.
That's where that's while you're doing your light duty, you have to do it in voters now.
Okay.
Right,
Ms.
Liz?
Hefner? Go ahead.
The other question I had, tonight was the first time I heard that there was like an approximation of time to vote? And I mean, maybe that's just one polling place's idea, but anybody who wants to vote can vote, correct? Once you're in line, you're allowed to vote.
Yeah, if you're in line, I think the law currently is if you're in line by 8 o'clock, you're there until you get to vote. Yeah.
Yes. I think.
But I think the point is well founded. We're going to do things like the e-poll book, which will speed up the process. For example, after everybody gets trained on it, the thing you're going to get a e-poll book presentation, and the reason you're doing that is I think we talked about this at the last meeting. We're not going to be able to get the paper book anymore. The printer isn't going to print in the Commonwealth because of the 15-day deadline before election to register. They won't be able to print it in time. So, essentially an e-poll book is not even a choice for us. We have to do it in order to conduct our elections.
So we can't hope that ES&S is going to pay for that? Just
All right. Any other questions or discussions for anyone? Thank you, Mr. Executive. I guess the presentation is probably ready by now?
No.
You're in the hallway.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
That's not them, that's us.
Oh, yeah. Well, maybe while they're at it, they can fix so people can watch the video in line.
Yeah, so I apologize. It doesn't look like we'll be able to just get the images on the monitors. It doesn't seem to be working properly.
So you can give a presentation, you just won't be able to use monitors.
That's correct.
I'm fine with that. I think we're all fine with that.
To the best of my ability.
You're here, we're here. Why don't you go ahead and do it?
Okay, great, thank you.
So
again, I apologize for the delay.
Yeah.
My name is.
Can you adjust the mic?
Sure.
There you go. I just want it to be, everybody can hear and it's clear. Thank you.
Okay, so my name is Lena Santiago. I'm representing 10X Software Solutions. We're a Florida-based election software company. We've been in business since the year 2000, again, specifically election software, our cornerstone being an electronic poll book. So that's what I have right here in my hands. It's the Precinct Central touchpad. That's what I'll be showing today. As you can see, it's completely encased in this metal case. It's our proprietary flip and share stand, and all the poll worker would have to do is just crack it right open, and it's just ready to go right there. Again, sorry I can't show these screens, but this is for the most part the normal configuration that we have for a lot of our counties. One of the main ways to search for your voter is, of course, a manual search, having them present whatever type of ID or just providing you with their name to look them up. So that's what we'll do today, and I'll be able to kind of turn the screen around for you guys to see what that process looks like. So again, I have my large buttons here. I'll do my manual search. There are multiple ways to search for a voter. It doesn't necessarily have to be first name, last name. There's a lot of different methods. And again, a lot of these things are configurable depending on how Northampton would like the poll workers to use it. So here's our first one. Okay, so I just entered in a couple of characters from the first and last name. It is a smart search. You don't have to fumble through very long last names.
Just excuse me, if anybody has trouble seeing it as she holds it, just say something that you want to see.
Yeah, I can move forward.
Okay.
Actually.
That's okay. You're fine where you are, unless somebody can always say, could you tilt it?
Sure. So again, this screen, once I find my voter, I do have a nice big green message letting me know that they are an eligible voter. Through different scenarios, such as if a voter has an absentee requested ballot, they will get different messages and flags providing the poll worker with further instruction, letting them know, hey, this person has received a mail ballot. They need to vote provisionally now. And any further steps that they need to take at the polling location so that the voter can either cast their vote provisionally, or if they need to call the elections office or whatever the other process might be. Again, all very configurable. I will show also the voter signature capture that is done right here on the screen of the touchpad. You'll note that it does flip upside down because the case flips right over for the voter. Right, so there's no fumbling around, no turning it, nothing like that.
That is the actual e-book that people would get.
Yes.
Oh, okay, I think just to be clear, because it might have been a presentation device, that is the actual book. That would it be one per or two? Because sometimes there's two books.
It depends on the polling place. There could be 4.
I'm sorry, sir, but go ahead. Since you're a poll worker, what was your question?
There are 3 books in our location.
All right, so it'll work to accommodate what we have now. All right, go ahead.
Yes. So again, this is a signature capture. Very easy, very fluid to capture a signature right on the screen. A voter could use their signature. We also provide styluses if they prefer, just like a pen signing on a piece of paper or a traditional poll book. It will flip right back over to the poll worker. Very seamless, very ergonomic for all-day use. There are methods to allow signature comparison if Northampton County would like to use that feature. Again, does not have to. Oops. Sorry, I keep touching the wrong button.
Is that battery powered?
It is battery powered. So maybe let me backtrack a little bit. What's encased in this is an Apple iPad.
All right.
Okay.
But I mean, because it's going to be operating for what, 12 hours?
13.
All right. It's going to be operating for a little over 12 hours, 13 hours. But so I'm just saying, I mean, I know there's places that you may have outlets and places where you won't, but I don't want to interrupt your thing, but.
Oh, not a problem.
Your deal. I'm just curious.
Yeah, we always advise all customers to have them plugged in if possible, just in case of a power outage, anything that could happen throughout the day, so that the iPads are at a good battery health if anything does happen. There are also battery backups that we can provide if the county so chooses to go that route. If they believe in a rainy day case, they would need something like that.
Sounds fun.
Okay. And then it completes the check-in. After the first couple of check-ins, a poll worker, we have metrics letting us know that this type of check-in takes about 30 seconds. All of those metrics would be available to the county afterwards. Lots of statistics that we provide on the back end after the fact. Okay, just one other thing to show, because it's been coming up a lot, again, is the mail ballot. So I will look for someone that has requested mail ballot, absentee ballot, and you'll see that my screen looks a bit different now. They have a yellow flag that says absentee requested, and they now have a red message that lets them know this voter is not an eligible voter and they cannot vote normally. Again, there's that blue message down at the bottom providing further information, and if the voter wants to proceed as a provisional voter. The touchpad can also do a couple of other functions. If you have a voter at the incorrect location, maybe you guys went through a redistricting process and they don't know where they're supposed to go, the touchpad can redirect them, provide a map, and give them turn-by-turn directions as well.
Is that your presentation? Now,
yes.
I'll entertain questions, but I'm going to recognize you so we don't talk over each other, because I'm sure there's some questions. Where do we go? Who has questions?
Well, I have a question, but you were.
Mr. Myers, you're recognized.
What's the turnaround on loading names and getting names in if we have 15 days?
So the way the data starts is we will receive their Northampton's voter list, polling locations, streets, districts, a couple of weeks before the election. And if they have updates, such as absentee updates, if more voters up until that 15-day period are requesting those ballots, they would provide us supplemental files, which would be loaded in the back end and sent to the touchpads as update journal files is our term for it. And this would be happening while the touchpads are still in the office before they're deployed.
Are they susceptible to any kind of malware or anything else?
No, not at all. They have gone through extensive security testing. This touchpad has been certified here in the state of Pennsylvania, gone through security testing in various other states as well. The Apple iPad is the only tablet-based that's, losing my word, is confirmed use for government use. There's a lot of screening that's come through it, and security on our end as well.
Ms. Zirinsky, then Mr. McGee.
So it came up before about the ESNS machines, how they're, if they would be web-based or be hooked to the internet, if they could connect to the internet. If that's an iPad, can it not be connected to the internet?
If it was a regular off-the-shelf iPad, sure. But these iPads, we purchase them and they go through a configuration process before they ever get to the hands of the customer. Basically what this means is the Apple iPad is turned to an official election equipment piece. So it's enrolled in our mobile device management system, which locks the iPad down so you will not have access to any normal apps like Weather, App Store, Safari, nothing. The only thing available would be the EPB app, which is our proprietary app, and the Settings app for any troubleshooting that might have to happen on the back end.
So there's no way to hack into these?
No, they have been tested. And they go through extensive penetration testing internally as well as externally.
Okay. And what is the cost per unit on this?
Sure. So per unit, I believe I gave you a full quote as well. I believe it's like about like $790, but what that includes is the iPad, which we provide at cost from us, which is $329. The license fee for the Precinct Central license and annual maintenance and support that we provide. It also includes the mobile device management enrollment, the shipping and configuration. It includes this stand as well and the stylus. And just all of the background security, the back-end console is provided in that as well. All of the scripting that we do to receive the data files from your voter registration and that we're doing it correctly is included in that price. Proofing of all of your data to make sure that it's per se golden before it's ever loaded into the touchpad.
And how do you receive that data?
We would receive it from the voter registration system. We have an FTP server that would be specific to each county, and that's how we would do the data transfer. Basically, they would provide us files that come from voter registration that has their voter lists, districts, streets, polling locations, and we write specific scripts to read that data.
So you get that before you put that on, you load that onto the device before we even get it? Is that,
That's correct.
Okay. So no one here has to load data on it? There's no separate...
No, not necessarily. And once the scripts are written, it's a very easy process to do in the back end. A lot of counties that have been working with us since 2006, 2007, we still assist, but some counties really like to be, gung-ho and independent, and it's a very easy process. It's just like uploading a PDF to an email.
Are there any difficulties or problems that you've encountered or that your company has encountered with using these machines? Either user error, human error, like configuration problems?
To be quite honest, and I mentioned this in the previous meeting as well, a lot of the times the troubleshooting that we have is connection issues, but you guys kind of take that off the table since there won't be Wi-Fi connection at the polling locations. So that's really one of the main things that we see. Other than that, it's kind of the learning curve as the county gets used to providing the data in the correct formats, loading the data, proofing the data along with us, and then really just deploying the data packages to the touchpads. But a directly responsible individual is assigned to every single county, and it's their main contact between the county and 10X, and we really do just provide a step-by-step process and provide support throughout everything.
But you just said connectivity was an issue. Right. Couldn't I use like my cell phone as a hotspot and connect to that somehow and hack into it?
No, through the MDM process, again, these are locked down. There's restrictions and profiles that are set on the iPad. So if you were a county that had Wi-Fi connection or you were allowed to use Wi-Fi connection at your polling location, you still would not be allowed to use your phone as a hotspot. It's restricted to specific networks or no networks at all. So you would receive errors if you tried to connect to the touchpad.
You finished?
Yeah.
For now?
Pardon the interruption. Just to be responsive to you, one of the reasons I think the administration recommended you have this presentation is because this system's been used in Lehigh County, I believe, for the last 6 years.
Oh.
And we don't, always steal from them, but
sometimes
we like that. And the quote that we received amongst the several quotes that we take, theirs is very competitive.
Okay. I'm just asking these questions
Very
because I
competitive.
know that they're going to come back to us, so I can.
Oh, of course.
You got to pay for it, so they better.
I know we don't want to walk into another problem like we're going through now.
Of course. Yeah, and reading through, listening to all of this testimony from what happened here in this county, I assure you that we take security very, very seriously. There's a lot of monitoring that we do on our end that goes beyond the scope of the county's responsibility. So we have implemented this statewide in the state of Kentucky. We've implemented in counties like Cuyahoga County, which is the large Cleveland area in Ohio, as well as Orange County in California, San Diego. large implementations that we have pulled off successfully and continue to be successful from election to election.
Okay, Mr. McGee will be recognized next, and I promise I will swing my head over to the right. Mr. McGee, yes, hand up.
How many counties in Pennsylvania do you support?
I believe it's Lehigh. I believe there's one more, but the name slips me. I believe there's two
And
counties.
the history of this device, the polling books, the electronic polling books, how far back in history do they go?
I believe, I know you said 6 years, but I don't know if it's been quite that long with Lehigh.
I think he's asking you how long.
How long you?
Oh, the touchpad. The first touchpad implementation was in West Palm Beach, Florida County. I believe that was in 2006, 2007.
That's all? Mr. Giovanni?
What happens now, the data that you're going to put in here comes from the voters and voter registration. What happens if the database gets corrupted with all the data?
Like if it's too large and it doesn't.
You're loading it in and it just gets corrupted.
So, okay, so when we receive data from any county, any voter registration system, we go through rigorous process of proofing the data. So we have a specific engine that runs the data through. If there's any records that look like they're corrupt or incomplete, such as inaccurate birth dates, botched voter IDs, whatever it may be, it does provide those results back to us, and we provide a report back to the county to let them know these are the issues that we came across, and if maybe they're just a fat-fingered record, or if it's something that we need to pay close attention to. From there, the package is created, and in the creation of the package, it goes through various scripting and engines as well on our end. So if something were to be off in the package, as far as like the data package would not be, it would not create, is basically what I'm trying to get to.
And it'd be encrypted.
Yes, it's all encrypted. Data is always encrypted at rest and in transit, so when it's being created.
256 encryption or what?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
He's an IT guy, so you're going to have to, everybody has to be on their toes.
I could ask the experts, though.
Yes, I would like to know.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe, then she'll come back again. Ms. Hefner. Oh, I'm sorry, you finished, Mr. Giovanni?
Yeah, I'm done.
All right, Ms. Hefner.
I have no technical questions. That's not my thing. I'm curious back to the absentee ballot process again. Just thinking about the voter and stepping up. So they get to that screen and they may have requested, or it flags them some way. They go, that wasn't me, or that was my father, or I'm the son. So then how long does that process take before it's kind of seamless that they'll say, look, here's a provisional if you requested, or, because you're hearing about people that are disgruntled with the process. So how do they handle that, or what's your suggestion? It's just pretty seamless, like?
So there's a couple of things, and again, I don't want to overstep whatever legislation you have in process. Currently, how it is if you are flagged that you received a mail-in or absentee ballot that comes directly from voter registration, and you have to vote provisionally, and that's kind of just a 1, 2, 3, and you're done. If there is an option, or rather there is an option on the touchpad where a challenge voter workflow can be turned on, it's completely optional. And again, if it's open to your legislation, to where if someone does say, no, I don't think that's me, it must be incorrect, they could be processed still as a provisional, but it flags them in a different way to where once the data gets back to your console, voter registration or the elections office can kind of do some further digging into it and see if maybe they were supposed to have a normal ballot and it was just a clerical issue.
Mm-hmm. And also, my question is, what's sort of the learning curve or the timeline for implementation in some of the places that you've been before? Because I'm pretty sure people will be nervous about this, given they're already nervous about the other machines. So do you set them up with the books alongside, or is it just pretty much a transition, or how long does it take to transition from paper to this?
Sure. So normally for a jurisdiction about the size of Northampton, we would say maybe about 8 to 10 weeks, depending on the final number of hardware that they would be purchasing. Throughout that entire implementation process, we would do onboarding, back-end training with the admin staff, providing all of the hardware, and setting up train-the-trainer sessions where we basically come in, train the admin staff, and then also train the individuals that go forward and train the poll workers on how to use the electronic poll book. There have been jurisdictions before where kind of as a, second plan B almost, they'll have a spare printed poll book if they want to, but a lot of times they're very satisfied with the way the training and implementation has gone with the touchpad, that they're very confident. And I've been to many trainings before with poll workers, and they seem very confident in the use of the touchpad after just a couple of minutes just working. What we provide to them is a touchpad just like this in training mode, and training cards just like this that mock up what a real scenario looks like. So we give them the real whole meal deal problem before they get to the polls.
I would say some of that training too is going to be on the county to make sure that the judges, because some of those calls will be made by the judge of election at the individual precinct. If there's a problem, poll workers, usually it's the judge of elections that'll decide if he needs to call the county or not. So are there any other, Mr. Myers?
I have one more question.
Sure.
Since this is something new, and like the machines were something new, are you going to have personnel available, primary and election day, that reach out and grab instead of touch?
Yes, of course. So customer service is one of our biggest things that we pride ourselves in. We just did 17 new implementations in the state of New York, and we answered every single call. We will always have boots on the ground as well as support staff back in our office in Tampa answering a dedicated hotline for the county. So there will always be someone there to help them with any issue, hiccup, or just concern that they might have. Again, this is where the directly responsible individual, what we call a DRI, is really going to come in for the county and provide assistance throughout the entire process. And it's not just through the first election. We have a relationship with every single customer we have. And again, even though Cuyahoga County has been with us since 2006, 2007, every now and then they still like to have people on site to help with elections.
That question was more for you. I want to hear what you were going to sell to me as the former salesman.
Any other members of council? I have a couple follow-ups I just want to ask you. You mentioned the costs, and we went over them. Are those one-time fees and costs? Is there any continuing costs that go forward after we purchase the machines?
Yes, so the costs that I described earlier, those are one-time costs, and then there would be a $125 licensing fee per unit per year of use. So again, that's just to renew the license and to maintain all of the support that we provide throughout all of the elections.
Okay. And as far as, that is the only ongoing cost unless there's some major problem, I would guess.
That's it, unless we do offer other election software products.
Okay. Well,
Offer voting machines.
We do not.
no.
We don't get in that.
We based on our last election, I don't think many people are going to say, oh, this is a terrible idea. It's just, we're implementing something new on the heels of some issues. And so we're rolling some, in one sense, we want to hopefully mitigate as much as we can. And I'm glad to hear that you've used this in other places, and you've said that there's been no real issues. That's important. The other thing you did mention to Mr. Myers that you will have you're going to have boots on the ground, personnel. Is that people here in the office, or is it like a few people, somebody who could literally go to a polling location if in fact there was an issue that they thought we better check on this?
Sure. So normally for the first election, we do provide it free of cost for, usually it's the DRI. That's the person that's most...
Director of, I'm guessing.
Sorry, yeah, directly responsible individual. It's kind of our term. So basically like...
I never heard that one before, but that's a good one.
Basically like an account manager.
Sure, I understand.
So they would be the ones that are most familiar with the configuration set for Northampton,
Okay.
and they would be the most qualified to be here in the office. And yes, I mean, I've been at elections before where I've had to go to a polling location, and it could be something as simple as they tripped on the power cord and they don't understand why it's not charging.
Yeah.
So all of those types of things we we handle.
Now, I know you said you put in a great deal of proprietary work and making sure that nobody can get into the machine or anything like that. But at its core, is it Bluetooth capable?
It is. It's an Apple iPad.
Okay. But again, you're saying with your experience with this going back to 2006, 2007, you've never that you're aware of, have never experienced an issue or a concern with any body being able in any way, shape, or form to create a problem? Because
No, not at all. We run reports after every single election across all of the jurisdictions that we provide this product to, and we have never had any type of security issue, anything that we've had to mitigate before.
Okay. Sorry, but these are actually just follow-ups based on what you said to people. You said 8 to 10. I'm going to say 12 weeks because nothing ever goes as we plan generally. So we're looking at an April, when's the election, 18? 20, yeah, but what date? 28th. So we're looking at April 28th primary, and we're now at January pushing 28th, so we're 3 months out. We're basically around 12 weeks, give or take. So I don't know what this process is going to be in terms of, because we have to approve the purchase and all that. So it's going to be a fairly aggressive training period. It's going to have to be. And I guess this would leach over to the administration. We're prepared then to make sure because it's the people on the ground that are going to be.
We don't have a choice.
Well,
We have to.
The answer is yes.
Yes.
Because we don't have a choice.
I'm trying to instill some confidence, though. I mean, it's like the books, we can't get the books going forward.
Right.
And I understand that. And we have a system that we're deliberating. I mean, what is the choice? But the point, I guess, is you said 8 to 10. I just want to be sure, based on your experience, again, with the company, you feel very confident and you will be willing to support them in any way to ensure that this goes smoothly. I mean, it's something new, and if I've learned anything from my experiences in Northampton County from my youth is we're not necessarily very new friendly. And there's reasons for it. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's if you're a Pennsylvania Dutchman, you've got a lot of reasons to come up with why sometimes new isn't better. Anyway, all right. Well, you've answered Mike. I can't think. I think you pretty much hit on all my questions. And we have Ms. Zirinsky and then Mr. Giovanni.
So my question is, we have like 320 machines, right? Lamont? 320. So these cost $790 a piece. That's $252,800, right? Is any portion of that paid by the state from the?
We put it in. We put it in our grant application.
Okay, so that's what I was wondering. And you said that it's $125 per year per unit for maintenance, right?
Yeah, it's annual support and maintenance.
So $40,000 annual support and maintenance, basically, if we only have 320 machines.
Right, depending on the number of
units.
units.
Then obviously the cost goes up.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's not so bad. I just wanted to make sure that all the costs that you outlined, it wasn't 125 over and above the 790. It's included in that 790.
Yes, the first year licensing fee and annual maintenance fees was in that bunch, $700 and so odd per unit.
Okay. And once we get these, how long do you think they'll last?
We get that question a lot.
Yeah.
To be honest, we don't know because there's counties that have been using the Apple Minis Generation 1 since about 2007, and they're still kicking, and they haven't replaced them. So
well, that's something positive now, isn't it?
So we don't know. So they're going to last very many election cycles.
Great. Thank you.
Are you, Mr. Giovanni?
Yeah, one more question, and actually for Lamont and you. Say we come April 28th, come the election, we're at the polls, and the iPad doesn't turn on. Then what do we do?
That was my question.
Okay.
I thought she said, I asked her.
Did you?
Go ahead.
If it didn't turn on, when you're ready to use it, everything worked. Everybody went over it. Everything worked. Come April 28th, we're at the polls. We go to turn the iPads on. One doesn't come on.
Sure. So again, like you said, assuming that we went through all of the logic and assessment testing and it worked fine, and for some reason it's not working now, so all of the data packages that's loaded on here, it's not just locally stored here. There is redundancy of the data across all poll books as well as on the back end. So if you have a spare, which we always encourage counties to have just a couple of spares, it can very quickly download a new data package to be deployed out to that polling location.
Okay, then I was concerned that Lamont, you'd be running out of iPads to all these polls. Because if there's three iPads there and one goes down, you only got two and then you got the line.
Yeah.
But that, okay. Because that will happen in
Mr. President.
technology.
Mr. President, if he's done.
Yeah, I'm done.
All right, Mr. Myers.
How much time do we have before we have to make a decision on this purchase, gentlemen? Because that was my point. In order to do this in the amount of training time, we have to do this quickly. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think, just to remind everybody, it is important to remember that on Election Day, there's a judge who's always available, as we found out in November, and I believe is sitting in the county, right in the building, on Election Day, available for any contingencies to make a ruling one way or the other. So, okay, are there any other questions or concerns? If you, I guess, if you think of something, write it down, and we're going to be talking about it in a couple of weeks again. Mr. McGee.
Do you have a cut sheet on the, like an informational sheet on the books you can get to council? That'd be great.
Yes, not with me, but I do have an electronic copy that I can forward to you.
That'd be great.
To the clerk's office.
Yeah, you can forward it to the county council clerk.
Okay.
There are no other questions then. Thank you very much for the presentation. And I guess we'll be seeing you again. Okay, and now we're going to go to old business.
We don't have any. You said we're going to old business. We don't have any.
Well, that's what I'm, all right.
Oh, we do?
Relax, we're rolling along. Okay, old business. Is there any, we don't have any on the agenda, but is there any old business that anyone has? Seeing none, we'll go to new business. All right, first is the consideration of personnel request resolutions, Department of Human Services, Graysdale, Children, Youth and Families, Mental Health, and Drug and Alcohol Divisions. We'll start with Graysdale. Mr. McGee.
Resolved by Northampton County Council that one part-time position of staff developmental instructor, pay grade CS 27-1A, salary $29,497, shall be eliminated in the Department of Human Services, Graysdale, effective this 23rd day of January 2020. Further resolved by Northampton County Council that 3 positions of nursing supervisor per diem, pay grade CS 29-1A, salary at $12,064 each, or $36,192 total, shall be eliminated in the Department of Human Services, Graysdale, effective this 23rd day of January. And it is further resolved by Northampton County Council that 1 full-time position of staff development instructor, pay grade CS 27-1A, salary $58,994, shall be created in the Department of Human Services, Graysdale, effective this 23rd day of January 2020. We spoke about it in committee, so moved.
Okay, great. Are there any questions, discussions? And seeing none, call for the vote.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Spargo Hefner.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
No.
Mr. Giovanni.
No.
Passes by a vote of 5-2.
All right, now we will move on to Children, Youth, and Families, Mental Health, Drug, and Alcohol. Mr. McGee.
Resolved by Northampton County Council that 1 full-time position of fiscal service Services Officer 2, pay grade HS 48 8H, salary of $72,025, shall be upgraded to one full-time position of Accountant 3. Pay grade HS 418H, salary of $75,266 in the Department of Human Services, Children and Youth Services Division, effective this 23rd day of January 2020. It is further resolved that one full-time position of Fiscal Officer 2, pay grade HS 46F, salary $65,955, shall be upgraded to one full-time position of Accountant 3, pay grade HS 416F, salary $68,923 in the Department of Human Services Mental Health Division, effective this 23rd day of January 2020. And it is further resolved by Northampton County Council that one full-time position of Fiscal Officer 1, pay grade HS 383C, salary of $52,926 shall be reclassified as one full-time position of Accountant 2, pay grade HS 38A 3C of salary of $52,926 in the Department of Human Services Drug and Alcohol Division, effective this 23rd day of January 2020.
All right, thank you. Any questions, any discussion? Seeing none, call for the vote.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Okay, thank you. All right, next we're going to move on to consideration of the Pennsylvania Act 106 compliance resolutions. There will be two. The first consists of the appointment of the risk manager, and then the form and content. So would the chair of the Finance Committee introduce the resolution for the appointment of the risk manager? It's a yearly.
So from the therefore out, or? Therefore, it is hereby resolved that the county shall hereby adopt the following procedure for compliance with the provisions of the Act. County Council is designating the Director of the Department of Administration or his/her designee to serve as risk manager for purposes of this Act. Director of Administration or his/her designee is hereby designated to compile and submit information to the County Council prior to close of every calendar year as to the amount of security that the risk manager recommends that the council maintain during the succeeding year, and otherwise to provide the information as set forth below to enable County Council to place into force the bond and insurance required by the Act for the succeeding year. In the course of performing the duties assigned under above, the Department of Administration and Solicitor shall confer to determine the form and content of the bond and insurance would comply with the provisions of the Act. At least 2 weeks prior to the close of every calendar year, the Department of Administration shall present to County Council for its consideration and approval the form and amount of the required security, together with a recommendation as to the bond or policy satisfying the criteria set forth in the Act.
Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion on this? Questions? If not, call for the vote.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you. All right, now we'll do the second part of that, which is the form and content. Ms. Margot Hefner.
Therefore, it is hereby resolved that the county shall hereby accept the following level of security to cover public officials, including members of County Council and the county executive. Crime coverage through the county's insurance policy with PCOR, which covers all county officials and employees for fraud, embezzlement, theft, forgery, and other criminal acts up to $1 million per occurrence. A wire transfer bond in the amount of $4 million, which provides additional security above the maximum of $1 million crime coverage under PCOR for certain county employees authorized to initiate wire transfers. A treasurer's bond in the amount of $72,000, which is coverage required by the state based on revenue collection levels and is still required since Act 106 does not apply to county treasurers acting as tax collectors as provided in Section 4 of the local tax collection law. a magisterial district justice bond in the amount of $55,000 per magisterial district justice, since Act 106 does not apply to those officials.
Okay. Any questions or discussions on this? If there are none, we'll call for the vote.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. McGee. Yes. Adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you. Now, what I'm going to do is, since we had a lot going on and long presentation, I'm going to jump, because we have people here for the contract resolutions, number 7. I'm going to jump that up to go to number 3. And we're going to jump into the contracts right now, and then we'll get to Mr. Kusic's resolution and go from there. He's going to be around a while anyway here, so. Okay, so we're going to go to consideration of Article 13 contract resolutions. We have Cummings Sales and Service, HT Lyons, Premier Therapy, LLC, and Vision Technologies. And the first one on the list is Cummings Sales and Service, and we have Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Now therefore be it resolved that the Northampton County Council does hereby concur with the recommendation of the county executive as set forth in the attached documentation to approve a contract with Cummins Sales and Service for a diesel generator for the prison.
Any questions, concerns? If there are none, call for the vote.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yep.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you. I should point out that Mr. Kenneth Kraft from the prison is sitting in the audience, so certainly feel free to ask him anything. Okay, the next one would be HT Lyons. Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Now therefore be it resolved that the Northampton County Council does hereby concur with the recommendation of the county executive as set forth in the attached documentation to approve a contract with the HT Lyons for kitchen equipment maintenance for the jail.
Okay. Discussion?
We're just renewing this, correct?
No.
Replacing?
We discussed this yesterday.
Oh, all right. I know what you're talking. I'm sorry about that.
That's all right.
No problem. Okay, any other questions or discussion? If there are none, let's call for the vote.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you. All right, now we're going to go to Premier Therapy. Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Now therefore be it resolved that the Northampton County Council does hereby concur with the recommendation of the county executive as set forth in the attached documentation to approve a contract with Premier Therapy LLC for physical, occupational, and speech therapy services.
Okay, thank you. Discussion, questions? If there are none, we'll go right to the vote.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you. And finally, we have Vision Technologies. Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Now therefore be it resolved that the Northampton County Council does hereby concur with the recommendation of the county executive as set forth in the attached documentation to approve a contract with Vision Technologies for hardware for disaster recovery refresh.
Okay, thank you. Discussion. Seeing none, call for the vote.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Mr. McGee. Yes. Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you, Council. You all missed the opportunity or chance to question one of the most knowledgeable men in county government, Mr. Kraft, who's now going to leave. But maybe in the future you'll have some questions for him.
I got him last night.
Oh, you got him last night?
I'm
Good.
sure we'll have
Good.
plenty of opportunity in the
Good.
future.
Well, what happens? All right. Now we're going to go back to what was number 3, and going to
CCAP priority.
pop to consideration of the County Commissioner Association of Pennsylvania's priority resolution. Mr. Kusick.
Okay, I'll just touch on each one. I won't read the entire resolution. Whereas the top priority for Pennsylvania counties in 2020 is increased funding for mental health services. And whereas county's second priority is solutions to the emergency medical services crisis to address current system funding needs and identify potential areas for county involvement and assistance, including retention and recruitment, reimbursement rates, funding, coverage, service models, risk reduction, EMS Act and regulations, technology support, and training requirements. And whereas county property tax reform is county's third priority, emphasizing the need to include county property tax in discussions on comprehensive property tax reform. And whereas counties have chosen rural broadband expansion as their fourth priority, addressing the immediate need for infrastructure that is critical to economic vitality and personal quality of life. And whereas increased state funding support for county adult probation services that correspond with the growing need is county's final priority. Now, therefore, it is hereby resolved that Northampton County stands ready to work with the County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania and counties throughout the Commonwealth in support of these priorities for 2020. It is further resolved that these priorities emphasize the important role Northampton County plays in improving our communities and the well-being of our residents. And I'll skip to the end. It is further resolved that a copy of this resolution be sent to the Northampton County Legislative Delegation, Governor Tom Wolf, and to the County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania.
Thank you. If there are any questions or concerns on this, Mr. Cusick is the man to ask. He has a high position with County Commissioners Association. I did get a chance last night. Our new director of CCAP, Ms. Schaefer, gave an interview on Pennsylvania Cable Network. The state of my life. I sit and watch Pennsylvania Cable Network. But anyway, so it was a good interview. She did a good job. No discussion. Call for the vote.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. McGee. Yes. Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you. All right. Now we have the consideration of the donation to Graysdale by the Military Order of Purple Heart Resolution. And this is, if we get any gifts to the county, it has to go through council. Ms. Fargo Hefner, would you introduce the resolution?
Now therefore be it resolved by the Northampton County Council that it does hereby authorize the county executive to accept on behalf of Graysdale the donation in the amount of $930 from the Order of the Purple Heart Lehigh Valley Chapter 190 to be divided and split equally among all personal funds accounts.
Thank you. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, let's call for the vote.
Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. McGee. Yes. Mr. Myers.
Yep.
Adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have consideration of the Wildlands Conservancy 2020-2022 Partnership Agreement Contract. Ms. Zirinsky, would you please do the honors?
Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Northampton County Council, 1, executes this agreement as of the date of the last signature and shall be in effect for a period of not to exceed 3 years, at which time it will be subject to review, renewal, revision, and expiration. Further, the Northampton County Executive, through the Office of the Program Administrator of the Division of Parks and Recreation, or designee, is authorized to take any and all steps necessary to administer and complete Northampton County's obligations. 3, authorize the funding from the Livable Landscapes Org in the amount of $225,000 to be paid in biannual payments from January 1st, 2020 to December 31st, 2022. So moved.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion?
We did discuss this through the ELU meeting.
Okay. All right, call for the vote.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Discussion regarding a resolution supporting House Bill number 432. Mr. McGee has to have a discussion. He plans to introduce this at the February 6, 2020 meeting. However, I believe he has someone here who would like to speak to this, and I said I didn't have a problem with that.
Thank you.
Brief statement.
Thank you, Chairman. I am supporting this bill, and I'd like to introduce it. I know Kevin Lott would like to co-sponsor it, and we put the vote off till next meeting. Also, everybody has time to digest the information. It's a very important bill, and at this time, Adam Perot is in the audience, and so nice of him to wait 2.5 hours to come up and present.
Used to Allentown City Council.
We're not so bad.
Thank
All
you.
right, good evening. As Councilman McGee stated, my name is Adam Perot. I represent the IFF Local 302 Allentown firefighters, as well as professional firefighters for Northampton County, being Bethlehem, Easton, and Wilson Borough. And I'm also here to speak on behalf of all the first responders of Northampton County. Basically, I don't know how much anybody knows about this bill. I was coming up for any kind of comments, questions, or concerns. If you would like me to explain where we're at in this process.
I would say maybe, we're not going to vote on it tonight. Could you just give a brief overview, a short overview of what it is and what you would like us to do?
Absolutely. Currently under Pennsylvania Workmen's Compact, first responders of Pennsylvania are not covered for PTSI. But now bringing it over to other workers of Pennsylvania, they are covered. So, God forsake that something bad happened tonight, everybody in the room would be covered with the exception of myself, Bernie, firefighter Bernie over there, and the officer standing outside. None of us would be covered for any kind of PTSI workman's comp. It's something that's needed, given the current state of all of the mental health initiatives that are going on around the country. The IFF has invested a lot of money, time, resources to investigating and treating its members throughout the United States. They opened up a treatment facility down in, I believe it's Maryland. Local 302, ourselves, Allentown, we have invested a lot of our time, money, and research into this as well. Created a peer support team, as well as contracting a 24/7 clinician that will help us through any kind of a crisis. With that being said, that's it's not a small chunk of change, so we have invested quite a bit into this. And the thought process is that we head it off at the pass and don't even get to this point where we need to use workman's compensation. Representative Salzberg has a House Bill 1459, which addresses the peer support aspect of things. That is passed all the way through, so that's going to be in effect. What that does, it provides the same type of coverage. But the problem is that when we're not covered under workman's comp, what it falls back to is our sick time. And over time, especially with municipalities that have paid departments, what happens is that a lot of these guys go off on long-term disability if they can't get back to work. What this would also enable is getting the members support, and they would be able to have all the resources they need to go forward with their treatment, plus the municipalities and as well as the departments that work for them. We have our own guidelines that we've set up through negotiations and whatnot to go through the workman's comp process, which would be treated no differently than a sprained ankle or a broken arm or something else on the job. We would still have to go through independent medical examiners and whatnot. The House bill, we're actually coming up on 1 year since we introduced it and went in front of the committee. We've been down in Harrisburg quite a bit. We've negotiated. I've been through several stakeholders meetings with the Pennsylvania Municipal League, workman's comp insurance representatives, as well as private ambulance corps, FOP, IFF. We're all represented in these meetings. This bill was put forth by Representative Barrar. He saw the need. He has a lot of members in his area that have come to him, as well as Frank Ferry. He's been very integral on that. He's been the outspoken one for volunteer firefighters at the meetings. We've went through, again, several meetings. We've gone through meetings on the amendments. Representative Cox currently is the only one that has an outstanding amendment. The amendment actually, we had an emergency meeting where we had to come to an agreement because our bills had gotten married together, and it was kind of a mutual destruction type Harrisburg deal. And so his bill wasn't going to work. We had to go and have an emergency meeting and come to an agreement on his amendment, which we did. And it took care of several problems from our perspective as well as his. So he was satisfied with that. And basically, right now where we're at is just waiting for leadership to bring it up for a second consideration. So we're anticipating that this February session. So we should be back out there, and hopefully we can get it up for a second. If it comes up for a second, it'll overwhelmingly pass. Today, based on the merit of the bills, it would overwhelmingly pass the House. It's not an issue.
Well, thank you. As well as if you're finished, and as long as you're here,
Yes, anybody has
questions for this gentleman, Ms. Hefner, and then.
Go ahead.
I may have two. So this covers firefighters and EMTs. What about police officers, or do
Correct.
they have their own separate union and
It's
coverage?
firefighters, EMTs, telecommunicators, corrections officers, and volunteer fire and ambulance services.
And are there any other?
EMS too, paid EMS as well.
It's not in your workman's comp, but are companies or the different franchises have any kind of employee assistance programs or anything built into the services within their municipalities or their townships? Not that I'm saying this isn't worthy. I'm just wondering what other kinds of
Yes, and
services are available.
Yes, to that, I can't speak for any kind of private entity, but as far as municipalities go, EAP is typically, again, I'm not sure with the volunteers how that exactly works with them, but EAP is always an availability for municipal workers that are struggling in that. Again, what it doesn't do is it doesn't cover that worker's medical expenses, nor does it cover his lost time from recovering.
If the EAP makes a recommendation for further treatment or services, then it's not covered within.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. Also with that, and then we also have CISM, and this covers the volunteers too as well. It's a crisis intervention type system. So what happens is that if there's a massive event where, unfortunately you may see death or something that really triggers something in somebody, what they do is they call this CISM support team to come in, which is made up of various groups from trained volunteer firefighters, professional. We currently have 3 of our support members, our peer support team, are also CISM team members. So they deploy when needed. We also handle the Valley's career departments. So if the IFF needs us to step in and take care of their members as well, we're able to. So.
Okay, that's it. Well, Lori, are you done?
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Myers.
My question is not for him. My question is for Mr. McGee. Why are we waiting till next month? If you need somebody to co-sign, this is one of the rare occasions I would jump on something right away.
I'm good with that.
I would co-sponsor it in a heartbeat.
I think the difference was in order to get some continuity of process, but in this sense, I know it's been around for a while. And I mean, it's still in committee as far as I know, correct?
No, we're waiting for a second consideration.
You're waiting for a second
Yeah, we've been out of committee since September.
Okay.
Allentown just voted to support this bill last week, I guess. But
That's correct. City Council unanimously voted.
I'm
as
willing
well
to
as
do
mayor.
it, but I mean, I don't want to push anybody.
All right, let me ask. As first of all, because it's not on the agenda and I want to be consistent, is anyone here want more information or time to digest this or further, or are you willing to allow a vote this evening? I'm willing to go ahead this evening then if there is no objection to a vote. Vote any way you want, but does anyone have an objection to a vote tonight? Because I know that this resolution had been sent out, I believe, earlier, correct? We all had access to it. All right, very well then. I am going to allow a vote on this tonight. Thank you. We don't need, you're finished. Now, Mr. McGee, was there anything you wanted to add on your resolution, or since you're?
I just comment, when I saw it and I understood how important it is. And, our first responders are the people we rely on, and to not let them, have this entitlement is just, I don't think we're doing our job as taxpayers or citizens or whatever.
Well, one thing I think was, just to clarify, I believe in speaking to Mr. Lott, who couldn't be here tonight, I think because he believes
He was
strongly-
in full support of this.
He wanted to vote on this,
Yes.
and that might have been one of the reasons why it was being pushed back.
That was
I mean,
one of the
he met the requirements of voting on it. He had it by Monday, so he met that requirement. But I believe that was part of the reason we didn't have it on tonight.
He certainly wanted to be involved in this.
I know there's been some concerns about fiscal. I will say this, though, the fiscal impact. I think that, and Mrs. Vargo Hefner knows this as well as the others, the mental health component is becoming more and more out in the open now, which is a good thing. And I think that when you talk about it with first responders, and I'm not saying anything out of school, it's been known as a macho area, and others in different areas of work have been very, let's put it this way, there's been a stigma on mental health for a long, long time. And there still is to this day. And I've always never understood how we made a distinction between the head and the rest of the body. But, it's all chemicals, hormones, and whatnot. I mean, we do get into trauma and things, but, that's, if you run your motorcycle into a wall or lay it down, that's part of your trauma, and you'll get covered for it. So, I mean, if something happens in your life and it's a trauma, I don't know. I've never really understood that. I figured it's always been an element of cost. But I think it's a nice step in the right direction, and it addresses something that would appear to need to be addressed. So I will support it. Ms.
Can I just ask a
Zirinsky.
question?
Ask Mr. McGee any question you have.
How is, because you just brought up a point about the economy of the whole thing.
Right.
So how is PTSI officially defined? Like, what are the parameters that would entitle you to that compensation? I would love for you to just.
Okay, so.
If you would come up.
So that was actually a good question. We broached this subject because we want a presumption in the original report.
Now you can answer it. I didn't know we were going to vote on it tonight, but we might as well.
Yeah.
That's fine. We want a presumption, and that wasn't going to happen. And there's also the abnormal and normal working conditions, which the law is currently stated, which is a huge hurdle that we've had to overcome through these negotiations. And some of this give back was that the Pennsylvania Municipal League offered up a DSM-5, which is their diagnostic manual that they work from. So basically what that is it defines PTSI. PTSI, and the reason why we're using PTSI right now is because the federal government and the Veterans Administration is going to be switching from disorder to injury, rather. So they're going to be making that designation. So we want to stay current with our bill.
Oh, okay. Because that was my question too.
Correct. Yes. So in the DSM-5, there's a list of criteria A through H. Within that, there's subsets that you have to meet within this criteria. Some of the criteria you have to meet 2 of the subsets within that one to be classified. In any one of them, you don't meet it, you do not meet their criteria for PTSI. So it's actually pretty stringent. It's not a weak thing to go through. You have to go seek a psychologist. So it's not like you can come back from a call and go, oh my God, I'm reporting off sick because I have PTSI. No, it's not like
It's not going to be an FMLA thing, right?
Yes, it's not the same as that. Like if you were to break your arm, you can't physically work any longer. But yes, you would have to go seek help, and then if you got the designation, then you would go through the workman's comp process.
Okay.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
You can tell me if I'm wrong, but in my experience clinically, most of the people who have PTSD, PTSI, don't jump forward and say that.
No.
They wait 2 or 3 months after the fact, and then we go, why are you depressed? Why is there malaise?
Exactly.
What's going on? And it's even after a huge incident and a debriefing. So I would be in total support of this, because I see people who have done this, and they wait years to get treatment, and the trauma is so embedded, it's
There's a cumulative effect that component there is to it. And like President Heckman alluded to before, is that this is unfortunate. There's a stigmata that the IFF has worked hard to overcome. And we've been getting through that, but you're always going to have it. It's not an easy thing to get through. One other important thing I would like to point out is, I lost my train of thought here, but as we're going through, Well, you know what, if I think about it, we'll be okay.
Any other questions?
No, I'm glad that you defined that because I was concerned about the parameters of the definition and the stigma. You've already approached that too, and I imagine that that's something else that adds to it. Is there a time limit to which one would have to report this?
Well, that's another good question. In our last emergency meeting that we had to discuss this amendment, Representative Cox put forward, because there's been a big argument, if you retire, what happens? So he originally, in his original amendment, he wanted it from the date of diagnosis, or from the date of injury. And we said absolutely not, because it's a cumulative effect. I could be, 2 years outside service, and then, so he did willingly change it to dated diagnosis, which everybody agreed with. So we're basically falling in line with cancer presumption and all the other types of things, the mesothelioma laws, workman's comp laws, and stuff like that, where you have up to, I think it's 3 years, if I remember correctly, after dated diagnosis.
That's good to know, because I think that's really important to have in the law.
Yeah, and one thing I'd like to point out is throughout this whole process, the one thing that both sides were absolutely safeguarding against was any kind of level of abuse, because nobody wants that system to be abused if it's going to be out there for us. So that's what both sides were trying to do. That's why we worked well with each other. I mean, obviously, there's some,
Sounds like you worked out and you have a standardized definition for everybody. Are there any other questions or concerns or discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote on the resolution. I believe, you want to do the where? I think we know what it is, but you can do the whereas.
Now therefore be it resolved that Northampton County Council fully supports first responder being introduced under the Workmen's Compensation Act by supporting Pennsylvania House Bill number 432 and any related amendments.
Okay, thank you.
So be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution shall be forwarded to the Honorable Tom Wolf, Governor, and all state legislators serving Northampton County as advised as to the unqualified support of Northampton County Council supporting Pennsylvania House Bill number 432 and any related amendments.
Thank you. All right, discussion on this specific resolution beyond what we've already done. Seeing none, call for the vote.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. All right, is there any other new business to discuss? Any other new business? Seeing none. Council committee reports. Anyone want to give a committee report? Once, twice? Go ahead. No, go ahead. I was counting down. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. We were just at the EOU committee. We voted on the resolution tonight for the Wildlands Conservancy. We discussed a PFAS resolution that we'll be putting forward next, or PFOS resolution that we'll be putting forward next month.
Okay.
And we discussed the success of the hemp summit and the new date for the hemp symposium, and then the hemp summit is on March 17th at Lehigh University in the Wood Dining Room.
Okay, thank you. Any other county council committee reports? Seeing none. Council liaison reports.
I have two, and I'll
Fargo
keep them
Hefner.
quick. Graysdale Advisory Board met earlier in January. We did not have a quorum, so we didn't have a meeting, but we engaged in a very good discussion, continuing to drill down on what are some of the things that keep getting in the way of positive ratings, and staff just talking about the ways that they have for continuing to address this. Also, the GPA met earlier this month, and there has been no movement on the Glendon Hotel because we are waiting the Glendon Borough Council to come out and join us. So that being said, there's bridge work being done, and we're good.
Yeah, and I don't
Just no hotel.
We don't need to ask the county official involved
I
to step forward.
just need to.
And no, that's a.
I just feel the need to report it because if people say, what are you doing? We are here, and it's their time to say yes, because we're waiting for the zoning, and that's where we're at.
You know, fairly or unfairly, sometimes issues stick to you for most of your career, and that's just how life seems to operate sometimes, and Glendon Hotel is
That
no
gentleman
exception.
was pretty vociferous about it being Steve Barron.
I don't think we need to get into that, but anyway. I just want to say, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I more have a question or a request for our airport authority liaisons, because I recently read an article regarding some proposals at Braden, and then I also spoke to a Forks Township supervisor. And I think some of you may know this, but the county has invested a significant amount of tax dollars to try to, keep that from being another strip mall or housing development. And from both the article and my discussion with him, I didn't get the sense that things were headed in a positive direction. So I guess
well, I mean, let me say what
I think that the sense that I got was that there was a lack of communication between the airport authority and the Board of Supervisors, and also Lafayette College, who is a neighbor as well. I do, and since we invested a lot of money, I do believe, and I think that improvements do need to be made to that facility to make it more economically viable. But I think that a process has to begin where people come together rather than dictates be offered or made. I just got the sense, both from the article I read and from my discussion, that it's not off to a positive start. And I think these upgrades are necessary for that to remain a viable facility. So that's just what I'm asking.
Before you speak, I know you got your committee and liaison sheet, and I didn't have the airport authority on there because I know Mr. Myers asked you about it. The reason being that you had one council person, now you have two, and I haven't gone to a meeting yet. And I thought, well, the whole point of a liaison is to come back to us and tell us, and if you have two council people on it already, we should be able to channel any issues and concerns back to the board. That was my take. I didn't know if we really needed to go with a liaison. Certainly if there was no one on it from council, I could see that as an issue. Now, Ms. Zirinsky's been on it. I don't know if you want to say anything.
From my understanding, I think Forks Township has part of the bylaws in the LNAA bylaws is that there's no development that can occur at Braden. So there's no way to put like a warehouse or a strip mall there, from what I understand, unless Forks Township allows that. Now, that's not to say that we can't put another hangar there or continue to make upgrades with like the FBO or things like that. And I think that's what the airport authority so far has heard from the administration and the GA, because the GA.
GA.
I'm
GA.
sorry, the general. No. It's I'm trying to think.
Anyone have a handle on GA?
No, it's
George.
anyway.
Smart ass.
It's the collection of pilots and FBO and
General aviation.
Thank you. I'm like general authority, general aviation. Thank you. So anyway, we've actually established a reorganization so that the GA has more say in our meetings. Like there was a GA meeting today. It was followed by all the other committee meetings. That one's the first so that it can be the priority. And we've heard a lot about Braden and about potential development, but that's not on the slate for Braden in the terms that you're talking about.
That was where we were several years ago. But since that time, the county put money into the property, and it was my understanding that there were some additional upgrades that the authority wanted to make.
Yeah, there's signage, there's hangar upgrades, there's an upgrade. I guess they're talking about a mural and things like that. There's a new fence that's been put around it for safety. that's still in discussion, because I think there are some limitations to what can be accomplished there because of bylaws.
What is the specific concern? You mentioned that the township and I mean,
Well,
if only going to the meeting.
The sense is that there was a lack of communication. Sometimes
With the township.
between the township and the airport authority. I mean, sometimes, picking up the phone and/or having someone from the airport administration maybe sit down with some of the individual supervisors, or have a meeting a workshop where you discuss some of these things, have a forum. So I understand how it works. I mean, there will be people there that will want nothing to change. Unfortunately, we've tried that, and that does not make that property viable from a fiscal standpoint. So there are some changes that have to be made, and we realize that when we put additional money into the facility.
Right.
My hope is just that there's a sense of cooperation rather than dictation as to what's going to happen there. Now,
Right.
I'm probably overstepping my bounds because I don't represent Forks Township, but these were just concerns that were brought to my attention.
And I understand that, and I could bring those concerns back to the board. We have a meeting on Tuesday. It is a public meeting, so anybody can go to it, and several people do. From the public, they attend. And from what I understand, Tom Stout, the director, and other Todd and the other people there, they have actually had one-on-one meetings with supervisors and the township manager in Forks Township. So I don't understand why that communication, you think that might not be happening, but I can assure you that Braden is on the airport board's radar, and that they are working with Braden to make it more successful. There are some hoops that we have to jump through.
And you can always follow up on Tuesday.
So I'll follow up.
Okay. Mr. Myers.
Give me a breakdown how we had ended up with two people on the authority.
Well, she was on,
I know, you like
and
that?
an opening had come up, and I had spoken to the executive a few years ago that I would like to serve on the airport authority if there was ever an opening, going even beyond my being on council. And an opening came up, and he had asked me if I was still interested, and I said yes, and my name was submitted to council, and they approved me. Ms. Zirinsky's been on
2 years.
2 years, so I just starting now.
Okay.
I think it's a 5-year term, right?
Yes.
So I got 3 more to go.
Keep your ear to what's happening up there, because I know Lafayette's trying to become aggressive.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Make sure we keep them in check.
I hear you, and I understand, because I know I've been around in the past for years about Braden, and that's been an ongoing topic. And as our only county airport that sits in Northampton County, I will always be well aware and be cognizant of discussions.
When they want to do something, make sure you let me know.
No.
Now that I'm walking away in a few days, I will gladly inform the county just how bad they are.
You mean Lafayette?
Yes.
Lafayette.
Wait till your
Well,
pension's
they
signed.
can be,
Well,
I've heard, yes, I understand.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, yeah.
We're buying fire trucks for them either.
Okay.
Well then.
Can we save that for a future discussion, Mr. Myers? Okay.
Very good at buying
Make a note of that, fire trucks. Any other liaison reports? Seeing none, council clerk's report. Nothing. Mr. Spadoni, your report, if any.
Nothing.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
moved.
So moved. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
We're out of here. Tony
Tony.
Spadoni.
Hey, honey.
Wow, that became a longer meeting than I thought it would be. Yeah.
Looked at it, you were right. Hey, you stopped. You're starting to walk.